If earning more money actually made people feel rich, then every promotion would solve your financial stress. But it doesn't. People double their income and still feel behind, still feel stretched, still feel like they're one unexpected expense away from being stuck again. And that's confusing because logically it doesn't make sense. More money should mean more freedom, more stability, less anxiety. So when that doesn't happen, you don't question the system. You question yourself. You start thinking, maybe I'm just bad with money. Maybe I don't have discipline. Maybe this is just how life is. But what if none of that is true? What if the reason your salary increase never makes you feel richer has nothing to do with how much you earn, and everything to do with something quietly adjusting in the background every time your income goes up? We've all been taught a very simple equation. Work harder, earn more, and your life improves. It sounds reasonable, almost obvious. And to be fair, it's not completely wrong. Earning more does change things, but not in the way most people expect. Because what no one explains is this. Your income doesn't grow in isolation. Your life grows with it. And that growth is so subtle, so gradual, that you don't even notice it happening. You don't wake up one day and decide, I'm going to spend more now. That's not how it works. Instead, your standards shift. Quietly. You start choosing slightly better options, slightly more convenient solutions, slightly more comfortable versions of things you already do. And none of it feels excessive. It feels earned. That's the trap. Because when something feels earned, you stop questioning it. You stop seeing it as a decision. It just becomes your new normal. And once something becomes your normal, it stops feeling like spending. It just feels like life. So when people say, I got a raise but nothing changed, they think something is wrong with them. But nothing is wrong. They're just experiencing something that almost everyone goes through without realizing it.
There's a pattern here. And once you see it, it becomes impossible to ignore. Every time your income increases, your expectations rise just enough to meet it, not exceed it, not dramatically shift your life, just enough to absorb it. Think about your own life for a second. There was a time when certain things felt like luxuries, ordering food instead of cooking, upgrading your phone before it broke, choosing convenience over effort. Back then, those were occasional decisions. Now, they might just be part of your routine, not because you're careless, but because your baseline changed. And this is where psychology plays a huge role. Your brain is incredibly good at adapting. Whatever environment you're in, whatever level of comfort you experience, it quickly becomes your new standard. At first, an upgrade feels exciting. Then, it feels normal. And eventually, it feels necessary. That's the cycle. And the problem isn't the upgrade itself. It's how quickly it stops feeling like one. Because once that happens, you don't feel richer, you just feel the same, just operating at a slightly higher cost. Let's walk through this slowly. Imagine someone earning just enough to get by. They're careful, they think before spending, they plan things out. Then they get a raise. Suddenly, there's room. Not a lot, but enough. So they make small changes. They eat out a bit more, they upgrade a few things, they make life slightly easier for themselves. Nothing extreme. A few months pass, that new lifestyle becomes normal. Then another increase happens. Now there's more room again. So naturally, they expand a little more. Better choices, more convenience, less hesitation. And again, it all feels reasonable. But here's the part most people don't notice. Each version of their life feels equally tight. Because the feeling of having enough didn't come from the income. It came from the gap between income and lifestyle. And that gap never really grew. It just kept resetting. So even though their numbers improved, their experience didn't. Now, let's go a bit deeper. Because this isn't just about lifestyle upgrades. It's also about how you feel. As your income grows, your responsibilities often grow with it. More work, more expectations, more mental load. And when your mental load increases, you naturally start valuing convenience more. You don't want to think as much after a long day, so you choose easier options, faster options, comforting options. And again, none of this feels wrong. It feels deserved. You worked for it. You earned this level of ease. But over time, those convenience-based decisions stack up, not in a dramatic way, in a quiet, consistent way. And suddenly, your higher income isn't creating freedom. It's maintaining a lifestyle designed to reduce stress in the short term, but keep you financially tight in the long term. And that's a very subtle trade-off, one that most people never consciously choose.
There's another layer to this, and it's even harder to notice. As your income increases, your environment changes. You interact with different people. You're exposed to different lifestyles. You see different standards. And without realizing it, your definition of normal shifts again. Things that once felt impressive now feel average. Things that once felt unnecessary now feel expected. Not because you're trying to compete, but because humans naturally adjust to their surroundings. So even when your income grows significantly, your sense of enough doesn't really move because your reference point moved with it. And that creates a constant feeling of, I should be doing better, no matter how much progress you've actually made. So what actually breaks this cycle? Not earning more, not cutting everything out, not extreme discipline. It's awareness. The moment you start noticing how your life expands, how your standards shift, how your normal keeps updating itself, that's when things begin to change. Because then you realize something important. The goal was never just to earn more. The goal was to create space. And space doesn't come from income alone. It comes from the difference between what you earn and what your life requires. That difference is everything. That's where flexibility lives. That's where peace of mind comes from. That's what allows you to breathe a little easier. But most people unintentionally erase that space every time their income increases because they let their lifestyle rise with it automatically. Not consciously, automatically. And once you see that, you stop treating income as the solution and start paying attention to the gap. So what does this actually look like in real life? It doesn't mean you stop enjoying your money. It doesn't mean you avoid upgrading your life. It just means you stop letting it happen unconsciously. When your income increases, instead of immediately adjusting your lifestyle, you pause. Not forever, just long enough to notice. You ask yourself, what actually matters to me here? What will genuinely improve my life? And what am I about to spend on just because it feels like the next step? Because not every increase needs to be matched. Sometimes it just needs to be observed. Maybe you still upgrade things, but fewer things, more intentionally. Maybe you still choose convenience, but not every time. Maybe you still spend, but with awareness instead of habit. And over time, that creates something different. Not restriction, not pressure, just space. Space in your finances, space in your decisions, space in how you think about money. And that space changes how everything feels.
Imagine two people earning the same higher income. One lets their lifestyle grow automatically. The other grows it slowly, more intentionally. Over time, the difference between them isn't dramatic. It's quiet. One feels constantly stretched. The other feels slightly ahead. Not because they earn more, but because they allowed a gap to exist. And that gap compounds, not just financially, mentally, emotionally. It reduces pressure. It increases options. It makes life feel less tight. At the end of the day, this isn't really about money. It's about awareness, about noticing how easily your life expands, how quietly your standards shift, how quickly more becomes normal, and how that can make real progress feel invisible. But once you start seeing the pattern, you stop blaming yourself. You stop thinking you're doing something wrong, and instead, you start making quieter decisions, more intentional ones, not perfect, just aware. Because maybe the goal isn't to keep increasing your income forever. Maybe it's to reach a point where your life doesn't require constant increase to feel okay. A life that feels stable, flexible, sustainable, where money isn't something you're constantly chasing, but something that quietly supports you in the background. And that kind of life doesn't come from big changes. It comes from small awareness, repeated consistently. If this made you pause, even for a second, that means something clicked. And that's exactly what we do here on Wealth Vault. No hype, no noise, just honest conversations about money and how it actually works. So if you're into that kind of thinking, drop a like. And in the comments, tell me one thing you know you spend on without even thinking. I read every single one. I'm Mike, and I'll see you in the next one.